I recently took all of the books out of my physical TBR bookshelf for a book haul for you all because it's quite significant. I can't buy any more books. I would find barely open books at Savers. Hey y'all, welcome back to another video of My Bookish Life with Kelsey Sweetie. I'm still getting used to that. I'm still getting used to that tagline, but I'm here to talk about a book haul and also a book ban. I can't buy any more books. I created this little nook adjacent from this bookcase that you see behind me. I've read all these because my physical book buying was starting to encroach on things that I actually read. And it was overwhelming to not have like a specific place. Like I started to understand what a book cart was for. Like, oh, there's my TBR cart. I understand why you need it. Because you feel overwhelmed that you can't see what specifically you need to read. And also considering the way that I read, which is month to month, changing, heritage, all of that, I really wanted to plan out. And that was another thing last year that worked for me, was planning ahead of time so that I already knew if I had something. If I was out and about, because thrifting books really became a big thing for me last year. And even this upcoming year, if I'm buying anything new, which we'll get into the book ban in just a second about that, I really want to lean on buying them from the thrift store because, especially at Savers, I would find barely open books at Savers, which I wasn't upset about, don't get me wrong, because I DNF books all the time and then I end up either donating them or this year I might start selling on Pango. I don't know. I've been thinking about it. I've been tossing around the idea of selling on Pango. I recently took all of the books out of my physical TBR bookshelf that I recently bought and hadn't covered or talked about yet on the channel for a book haul for you all because it's quite significant. And you continue to see from all these books that I end up showing y'all, it is a lot. And so I am instating a book buying ban at the top of the year. It's a lot. We're already stacking books forward. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's giving me anxiety. And while I read a good amount, I need to just lock in. And I think that I'm going to instate that book buying ban probably until Q2. I'm a millennial, so we talking quarters. Q2, I think, it's top of April, I may reevaluate. We may reevaluate again at the top of Q3. 6 months book buying ban. It depends on how fast I read and how many of these books really fit into how I read. Okay, that was long about me having a book buying ban. Let's just talk about the books I did buy because that's why y'all are here, right? Yeah, we love it. Okay, let's start with the ones that I pre-ordered and bought from Barnes & Noble. One of these, actually, I bought from a small shop in Ohio while I was visiting the hometown, the motherland of Ohio for me, the Midwest. Where I'm from is near Yellow Springs, and me and my family were just kind of walking some of the shops over there, and I ended up walking into Tesseract Books, which is wonderful. If y'all live in that area, go check them out. They have a wonderful selection of books, and I love their selection of used and older copies of books. This one I have been looking for, and I almost bought it on Pango, but supporting that small business, I had to, and I was so excited to finally get this. I fell in love with this cover, but I've been actually wanting to read this for quite some time at this point. Gloria Naylor's Mama Day, just a wonderful cover. As y'all know, I'm a cover snob. I'm a cover designer, so here we are. Do I buy books for the cover? Yes, and there will be. I'll tell you every single time. This is why I bought the book, all right? So get used to that. But one thing I've also talked a lot about is how Black books, and especially things that are Black horror, Black science fiction related, have never really gotten illustrated covers that really jump out to me as often as they should. This book is not part of that conversation, obviously. So I'm going to give a quick synopsis on what this book is about. And I hope to be quick on this, but I've already wasted a lot of your time with the intro, and there are a lot of books here. So there's a possibility that I'm not that quick on it. Please bear with me. It's a book haul video. Y'all know y'all just have this playing in the background while y'all work. Okay, let's get into it. Timeless yet indelibly authentic, Gloria Naylor's Mama Day is set on the Georgia Sea island of Willow Springs, where people still use only herbal medicine and honor ancestors who came over as slaves. On Willow Springs lives Mama Day, a matriarch who can call up lightning storms and see secrets in her dreams. But all of Mama Day's powers are tested when her great niece, a stubbornly emancipated woman, finds her life and soul in danger from the island's darker forces. Mama Day is a powerful generational saga at once tender and suspenseful, overflowing with magic and common sense. I will probably be reading this for the I Love Black Horror readathon. I've not put out the official announcement and stuff like that, so please be on the lookout if you are new to the channel about the I Love Black Horror readathon. It's something I do every year, and I'm very excited to be doing it this year. I have some new surprises this year for it after last year being such a success, but that announcement will be coming soon. But all of y'all who know what I'm talking about, I feel like this is a perfect book to be reading for February, and I'm very excited to finally get into it. I've heard really good things about it, and it was in really good condition. I mean, honestly, the person who read it must have started it and then just ended up not finishing it at all, because there's some early circling and highlighting and annotations, and then after like a first couple of pages they just stop, and it's just in really great condition. So I can't wait to get into this. That is literally the only one that is from a small book indie bookshop on this list. The rest of these, shamefully, they are from Barnes and Noble. Blame the membership and pre-ordering, and the fact that I've just really loved how translated novels have been being packaged lately. So speaking of which, let's get into the translated novels that I all of a sudden decided to buy when on one trip to Barnes and Noble. First and foremost, The Man Who Died 7 Times, by Yasuhiko Nishizawa. I have to slow it down when it comes to the Asian diaspora names. I'd rather be correct in my pronunciation than to be quick. So, did I pick this up because of the cover? Yes, I have picked this up numerous times while walking around Barnes and Noble because I thought this cover was just honestly really striking and amazing. And finally, I said, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's pick it up. I was picking up other like translated novels, and I decided I love this. I should pick this up. I have learned I really love like Asian weird lit. Last year I found that was what I was gravitating a lot to, which is crazy because before that I felt like I was missing something in it, and I think that I just hadn't found my stride yet. So I'm really excited when May comes around to get into some of these. It's a possibility this may make it into my January TBR. As I'm talking to you, I've not locked in my TBR yet, because I don't want to put that stress on myself, but there's a possibility this may make it into it. Let's get into it. For his grandson, Hisataro has fallen into a mysterious time loop in which he must relive the same day 9 times. Every morning after his grandfather's death, Hisataro wakes up with a chance to find the culprit and prevent the murder, but day after day he fails despite stumbling across clues aplenty in the shape of secret plots, illicit love affairs, and jealous rivalries. With an extremely large inheritance up for grabs, everyone is a suspect, and Hisataro is beginning to wish he could leave this day behind. Yeah, excited. It's a time loop. It's like Groundhog Day, but his grandfather's being murdered, and he's trying to figure out who's doing it. I'm excited for that. That sounds fun. Honestly, it sounds like this weird lit science fiction type of thing that it should work. So I'm excited to get into this one. Next, yes, did I pick it up because of the cover? Absolutely. Let's get into it. The Yoko Ogawa, a lot of their short stories, they got repackaged recently by Picador, which Picador has beautiful covers. I love their covers. And they repackaged a ton of them. And this one is the one that I ended up choosing, but there were a lot on that I needed that were on the cutting block at the end of it all. I have tried to read Yoko Ogawa's Memory Police. I love the plot, but it was slow for me. So I think that maybe trying out their short stories may be better for me. And I'm starting off with Revenge, which again, love that cover, but it also has an introduction by Carmen Maria Machado, which I'm very excited to get into, of course, from reading her work. So an inspiring writer moves into a new apartment and discovers that her landlady has murdered her husband. A bereft and grieving mother attempts to connect with her dead son. Elsewhere, an accomplished surgeon's jealous lover vows to kill him. Desire meets with meets with impulse and erupts, attracting the attention of the surgeon's neighbor, who is drawn to a decaying residence that is now home to only instruments of human torture. Murderers and mourners, mothers and children, lovers and enemies, their fates converge in an ominous and darkly beautiful web. Sinister forces collide with a host of desperate characters in this deeply harrowing collection of interwoven tales from Yoko Ogawa, a master of the macabre. Eerie, suspenseful, and wonderfully unsettling, revenge will haunt you until the very last page. I love it. It sounds like the human condition, and y'all know that I just love books that are about the human condition, to be honest with you. I think that that's what drew me to Memory Police, but it was just a longer novel, and it was just a little too poetic. It was a little too purple prose for me. I'm hoping that because this is shorter, that won't bother me as much if they decide to do that, and that it'll be like we've got to get to these more to the point type of thing. So we'll see. But I hope that I love it because this cover I'm obsessed with. Next, again, the cover, Unfit by Ariana Harwicks. It was so weird. I loved it. I loved how weird it was. I love that somebody sat here, did the text in this very kind of print, wobbly like design, and then said, it's about children and a lot of mental health issues, mother issues and stuff. Let's scribble on it like it was a crayon scribbled on by a kid. And somebody said, oh, that's going to reach the right audience. And it did. It reached me. And so I had to pick it up immediately. Do I buy things and books just because sometimes I'm like, that's going to look pretty on my shelf? Yes. But it's why I pick it up. And then if the plot really grabs me, then I'm like, okay, great. Which is why I went into cover design. Let's get into what the book's about, shall we? Lisa has lost custody of her young twin boys. An Argentine migrant in rural France, Lisa is caught between the sluggish legal system, her estranged husband, and her scheming in-laws. Pushed to the edge, she finally decides to take radical action. Early one morning, she sneaks into her in-laws' farmhouse, takes back her children, sets the barn ablaze, and flees. After the kidnapping and their flight from the law, brief glimmers of normalcy, ice cream, and backseat car games punctuate their white-knuckled road trip. But Lisa's clearly not in her right mind, and Harwicks deftly creates an unreliable narrator who challenges and undermines our assumptions about motherhood, custody rights, love, violence, anti-Semitism, and migration. Written in savage, chiseled prose, Unfit is a tour de force that asks how far we would go for the ones we love and what we might do to destroy the ones we hate. The latest novel by the acclaimed author of Die, My Love, Harwicks has written a sophisticated and shockingly brilliant novel that will have you hooked from the first page to the last. I'm very excited to get into this because it's a mentally unwell mother who's an unreliable narrator. I think the idea of her like kidnapping her kids because of the law system, the fact that they're a migrant in somewhere like France, because of course of all the conversations in regards to immigration, a lot of people feel like that's a conversation that's only happening in the US, and of course immigrants have it hard everywhere as far as that's concerned. I highly recommend you to watch the movie His House if you have not in regards to that conversation. But I'm excited to get into this. It's short, but I feel like it's going to be one of those that packs a punch and is something that is really interesting and sticks with me. I'm hoping for that because I love this cover. Let's keep moving. Next, again, another shorter one. I think that the way that what I learned last year as well, shorter novellas that pack a punch that are written well, you don't need all 500 pages. You don't even need 300 pages if it's that like shocking. Reservoir Bitches is a collection of short stories. Last year I read a lot of collection of short stories, and some of them were in my top like reads of the entire year because they're just written well. Just you don't need more, just quality. So this one is Walking Practice by Dolki Min. I have heard that this was a better version of another alien sexual novel that came out recently. Actually, this recommendation I got from Erin over in I forget what the name of her channel is. I'm gonna put it on the screen. But Erin recommended this, and again, I've said it before on this channel, I truly trust her recommendations no matter what because her reviews are spot on and this sounded amazing. I'm very excited to get into this. Of course, loved the cover. The cover is just so much fun. Absolutely loved it. And again, it's a shorter one, so I'm hoping that it's really great. A shape-shifting alien finds himself stranded on Earth and disabled by gravity. To survive, they will need to practice walking, and what better way than to hunt for food? as they discover humans are delicious. But after an ill-fated encounter, the alien begins to question what they must do to survive and understand why humans also fight to live. Yeah, it's the human condition. Let's name this, instead of book haul, just go books about the human condition. Let's just retitle this already. Okay, those were all of my translated novels. The rest of these I got on pre-order last year and just never got around to talking to y'all about it. First and foremost is a Hailey Piper novel. I have 2 Hailey Pipers that I need to get through this year. I'm trying, girl. But one of them is Teenage Girls Can Be Demons. This one came out last year, earlier this year as I'm talking to you. But this one is a collection of short stories and coming of rage stories, which I really, really love that concept. I love that we coined that term in the last year or so. So this was a must read, and it's blurred by Nat Cassidy, who y'all know I love. So let's get into it. 13 coming of rage stories. The way only Bram Stoker. That's weird how that reads. 13 coming of rage stories, the way only Bram Stoker award-winning author Hailey Piper can tell them. That sounded weird to y'all, right? Wildly inventive, brilliantly imaginative, and completely and utterly enthralling, a vicious group of college upperclassmen prey on the freshman girls in Why We Keep Exploding. Across the world, something is mutating adolescents into bizarre creatures in the turning. A girl on a night out realizes a bizarre cop is hunting her in the long flesh of the law. And in the acclaimed novella, Benny Rose, the Cannibal King, a Halloween prank goes horribly wrong when a murderous ghost steps out on an urban legend and into the real world. These stories take our most difficult years of transformation and twist them into new and terrifying shapes where the monsters are real and you'll do whatever it takes to get away or get even. Yeah, all of those synopses I loved, so I can't wait to get into this. And again, it's a short story collection. I really think that I'm in this era of like loving a short story that like sticks to you, like really sticks to you. I'm really learning that like you don't need length. You don't. I know I'm gonna mess up, and I'm gonna piss off some fantasy girlies out there who are reading 500, 600 page long books. But I really think that y'all just need a good novella, a real good horror novella. Another shorter novel, but I am planning on reading this for the I Love Black Horror Readathon. I'm really excited to start getting into her books after recommending them to people for the last couple of years. Eden Royce's Psychopomp and Circumstance. I thought that one, of course, the cover. I know. I'm just, I love it. It's gorgeous. I need to look at who did this one. Hold on. Somebody, because it looks illustrated. This was jacket art by Greg Ruth, and then jacket design by Christine Foltzer. This is amazing. We love it. She looks amazing. I think this is a gothic horror, which y'all know that I'm hit or miss on it, but after the last year, I've read some gothic horror that honestly I loved. So I'm far more likely to maybe pick it up, especially if it has to do with people of color. Fee St. Margaret is a daughter of the Reconstruction, born to a family of free black business owners in New Charleston. Coddled to within an inch of her life by a mother who refuses to let her daughter live a life other than the one she dictates, Fee yearns to demonstrate she's capable of more than simply marrying well. When word arrives that her Aunt Cleo, long estranged from the family, has passed away, Fee risks her mother's wrath to step up and accept the role of Pomp, the highly honored duty of planning the funeral service. Traveling alone to the town of Horizon and her aunt's unsettling home, Fee soon discovers that visions and shadows beckon from every reflective surface and that some secrets transcend the borders of life and death. I love it. It's gothic. Of course, it's gothic horror, and I'm excited to see where that kind of takes us. This will be my first official Eden Royce book that I read, and I'm just so excited to get into it. It just looks great. I bought it for the cover. I mean, of course, that sounds like a great book to read. But of course I did pick it up because I was like, oh, that looks like a great cover. Herculine by Grace Byron. I'm excited to read this. I really am. Could I have gotten it through work? Yes, because it is a Saga Press novel and they are under Simon & Schuster. Did I pick it up because it has a Lily Wachowski reference on the back of it? Yes. If you don't know who that is, they're one of the Wachowski siblings. Don't know who that is? Have you never seen The Matrix or Sense8? What are you doing? Get it together. I didn't just pick it up for that because honestly it does sound amazing to read, and also it comes from a femme trans author, which we love, and this cover was amazing. I was attracted to the cover, y'all. Y'all know that already. I'm not going to say it throughout the entire thing. Just know that I have tons of pretty covers here. I don't think that any of these books you could probably look at and you're like, that's a so-so cover. Unless it was given to me, I guess. But usually that's when I'm picking up a book. Anyway, let's get into what this book's about. Herculine. Herculine's narrator has demons. Sure, her life includes several hallmarks of the typical trans girl sob story, conversion therapy, a string of shitty low-paying jobs, and even shittier exes. But she also she also regularly debates sleep paralysis demons that turn to mist soon after she wakes and carries vials of holy oil in her purse. Amazing, love it. Nothing, though, prepares her for the new malevolent force stalking her through the streets of New York City, more powerful than any she's ever encountered. Desperate to escape the ancient evil, she flees to rural India, where her ex-girlfriend started an all-trans girl commune in the middle of the woods. The camp, named after the 19th century intersex memorialist Herculine Barbin, is a scrappy operation, but the shared sense of community among the girls is a welcome balm to the narrator's growing isolation and paranoia. Still, something isn't quite right at Herculine. Girls stop talking as soon as she enters the room. Everyone seems to share a common secret, and the books lining the walls of the library harbor strange cryptograms. Soon, what once looked like an escape becomes a trap all of its own. I think that this sounds very similar in tone to The Dead Take the A Train. I don't think exactly, but it's the portions that are in New York, I feel like may feel very similar to that. Very, we're fighting demons, very New York, very gay. We love it. Now, the back half of it taking place in Indiana, I think I'm very interested in seeing how that feels because a part of that also feels a tad bit like, what was it? Oh, I can't think of the name of the show anymore, and I love that show. Swarm. It feels very Swarm-like because of the Indiana cult queerness type of thing happening there. But I'm interested to see where it goes. It also, I'm getting like flashbacks of Paul and takes the form of a mortal girl for some reason, and then at the same time, I'm feeling like it feels culty, like these was the things. What's that new one that came out that everybody's like hit or miss on? In regards to like pregnancy. Oh, I can't think of it. I'll put it down in the description per usual. But it's feeling like 5 million different things that I love is the point. And so I'm very excited to get into this. I'm wondering where it's gonna go though. Is she a demon? Are they trying to bring her back? I don't know. I don't know, but I am excited to read this. I will probably read it sometime. I'm feeling like this is a March read. It's feeling like March and I'm gonna get into this. And I'm can't wait for it. Let's get next into the books that I bought through the book outlet's big sale that they had. That was an amazing sale. It was just insane. So as I mentioned, the book outlet had a huge sale. Basically, select books were all $5. Hardcover didn't matter. Brand new release didn't matter. It wasn't all of their books, but nearly it was all of their books were around $5 or some of these were even lower. I think one of these was even $3.99 or something along those lines. They were giving them away. Essentially, those are thrift store prices, and I found that I needed to take advantage of it. I had a couple extra dollars in my pocket, and it felt like if I didn't take advantage of it, that I'd be missing out. And this is the problem with me. Put a discount on anything, and I'll buy it pretty much. So let's get into these books that I bought. First and foremost, Monk and Robot by Becky Chambers. I'm late. I know, don't tell me. I already know that I'm late to this wonderful series. I have heard about this for years and I've always wanted to read it. I feel like it's that, again, human condition conversation, and I'm probably gonna cry, which isn't hard to do for me nowadays. But I do love that they like put them in one full package instead of two novellas. Although the art on both of those were gorgeous. I considering they are novellas and they inform one another, I do like kind of having it packaged. And also this artwork was cute. I think this is brand new though, this new packaging where they combine both of the stories. So I am looking forward to finally reading this series because of course everybody has told me it's great. And I don't think they're lying. I, for a very long time, avoided A Long Way to a, what is it? A Long Way to a Angry Planet or something along those lines. I didn't read the entire series. I just read the first one by Becky Chambers, and I was like, "Oh, cozy sci-fi. I don't like cozy anything." It ended up being amazing. I ended up crying my eyes out. I loved it. It was gorgeous. I just honestly, it was fantastic. I just I really was kind of like, I don't want to read it because it's cozy. I've heard that this is also described that way as cozy lit fic, and usually I'm not into cozy, but I think that the way that Becky Chambers writes, it understands me. So I picked this up. For anybody who doesn't know what this is, let me read it to you. It's been centuries since the robots of Panga gained self-awareness and laid down their tools. Centuries since they wandered en masse into the wilderness, never to be seen again. Centuries since they faded into myth and urban legend. One day, the life of a tea monk is upended by the arrival of a robot there to honor the promise of checking in. The robot cannot go back until the question of what do people need is answered, but the answer to that question depends on who you ask and how. They're going to need to ask it a lot. I will probably cry my eyes out reading this book because I'm empathetic and I just love a good cry. No telling when I may get to it, but I am excited to get into it. It may be maybe during April. It feels like an Earth Day read. I don't know why it does. It just does. All right, let's keep moving. I don't think a lot of people have heard about this, and it's been on my TBR for a while. And I decided, okay, I need to just pick it up finally. And that's The Blueprint by RaeGiana Rashad. This one is a Black author who wrote this, and it is like a sci-fi speculative type of book. I haven't heard a lot about it personally, whether it was good or not, but I even forget how I found it. I think I was just trying to find books in regards to recommendations and stuff for the I Love Black Horror Readathon, and I found this and I ended up not feeling like it was absolutely horror. So that's why I didn't really move any forward with recommending it. But then I finally saw it online and it seems like a great read. So, and I haven't heard enough about it. So I'm putting it out there. Maybe it'll have a resurgence. In the vein of Octavia E. Butler and Margaret Atwood, a harrowing novel set in an alternate United States, a world of injustice and bondage in which a young Black woman becomes the concubine of a powerful white government official and must face the dangerous consequences. Celine Bonnet lives in Texas, where choice no longer exists. An algorithm determines a Black woman's occupation, spouse, and residence. Celine takes solace in penning the biography of Henriette, an ancestor who'd been an enslaved concubine to a wealthy planter in the 1800s Louisiana. But history repeats itself when Celine, lonely and naive, becomes entangled with Bastien Martin, a high-ranking government official. Celine finds the psychological bond unbearable, so she considers alternatives. With Henriette as her guide, she must decide whether and how to leave behind all she knows. Inspired by the lives of enslaved concubines to United States politicians and planters, the blueprint unfolds over dual timelines to explore bodily autonomy, hypocrisy, and power imbalances through the lens of the nation's most unprotected, a Black female. I know this is going to be a hard read because I have found, especially in October, that sexual abuse, especially towards Black bodies, Black women, is a big no for me. It's really hard for me. So I'm preparing myself, but I also at the same time feel like this is a relevant read for many different reasons right now. And I think that it's interesting. I haven't heard anything necessarily like this per se. We'll see if it's really it though, because I think that some of the stuff that's in this book, it's going to be either a hit or a miss on whether or not I'm into it at all. Next, The Witches of El Paso by Luis Jaramillo. Everybody in the world's read this. I finally am going to get around to reading it this year. Of course, last year, what I definitely recognized was that I love the conversation of witches through the lens of a Latino writer. During September, I found some of my favorite reads of the year, and especially my favorite reads regarding witches and witchcraft, which y'all know is a hit or a miss or a huge miss for me. Like I know everybody loves Slewfoot. I haven't gotten through it because personally I was bored. Not to yuck nobody's yum. That's just me. I've just found that the Puritan witch is not for me. I have not found anything that truly feels right for me. I'm excited to get to this finally. And again, I do know, and I've realized that I could get this through, I could have gotten it through work, but that didn't happen. And I ended up getting it for $5. So it's still fine. Everyone probably already knows what this book's about, but I want to keep some continuity here. So I'm going to read the synopsis anyway. Magic, motherhood, and the music of the coven. Something's amiss in modern-day El Paso, where the lines that separate reality and the supernatural seem to be blurring at an alarming rate, and one family is about to find themselves at a border that may be too dangerous to cross. Ambitious attorney Marta, let's slow down. knows where real power lives in this world, in money and blood. Her work as a lawyer has underscored this sober reality, a contrast to the beautiful stories her great aunt Nina spins about La Vista, the magical gift Nina, I'm saying it right, claims they both share, as Marta balances the care of her quirky 93-year-old tia, Nina, with motherhood and her struggling legal aid practice. She discovers that Nina has a daughter she abandoned in the past, and they must work together to find a way back to her. Back in 1943, 18-year-old Nina yearns for the life of adventure that extends beyond caring for her sister's children and worrying about her increasing premonitions and fainting spells. When the mysterious sister Benedicta, yeah, I got it right, arrives at her doorstep and beckons her across the desert, Nina jumps at the opportunity to escape her reality. She follows Sister Benedicta through a doorway in time, transporting her from El Paso, Texas to colonial Mexico. As Nina blossoms into her own power and falls in love, she discovers that magic comes at a price, and it will take many years to even the score. Award-winning author Luis Jaramillo blends richly detailed settings and unforgettable characters to conjure this wildly imaginative debut novel. Nina and Marta's story will stay with you for years to come. I'm so sorry that was so hard for me to read. I was moving too fast. It was moving too fast. Is it still interesting? Absolutely. I am excited to read this, and it does feel slightly like The Dead Don't Belong Here. That's what I just read. Yeah, The Dead Don't Belong Here that I read in November. Just in the conversation of time and premonitions and family and women and all of that. I feel like this kind of sits in the same space, but far more less haunting. At least that's what I'm getting from just the synopsis. I don't know, but that's the vibe that I'm getting, and I'm excited to finally get into this after hearing everybody recommend it to me for the past like 2 years, basically. The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. I read Zero Saints and it blew my mind. It was, again, a novella, but it really packed a punch. It talked about so much in such a short amount of time, and I really did love the way that Gabino Iglesias writes that really mixes the English and Spanish together, and that it forces the reader to really understand and get in the mind of who you're reading about. You're reading about somebody who thinks in both of these languages, is living in both of these spaces. And so you're forced to read and look up some of these things. And I love that he did not back down when other people who influencers or other reviewers or editorial whatever were telling him, no, you need to translate these things. And he said no, because that takes you out of the story. That takes you out of who this character is. I love that he did that. I'm truly looking forward to reading a lot more of his work. And when I saw this on Book Outlet, I picked it up immediately. I know that I have a lot of other things of his to read. I know that he has a new release that he released last year, The House of Blood and Bone. But I'm trying, as per usual, to read people's back catalog before I try and read things that they've just released, because the back catalog was written for a reason and all of that's good stuff. But the stuff that's releasing right now, it'll be there. So I am excited to finally get into this one. Let me explain to you what it's about. The line between noir and horror not only gets blurred in Iglesias' The Devil Takes You Home, it gets obliterated. Profoundly moving, despairing, and scary all at once. I love that. Buried in debt due to his young daughter's illness, his marriage is at the brink. Mario reluctantly takes a job as a hitman, surprising himself with his proclivity for violence. After tragedy destroys the life he knew, Mario agrees to one final job, hijacking a drug cartel's cash shipment before it reaches Mexico. Along with an old friend and a cartel insider, Mario sets off on the near-suicidal mission, which will leave him with either a cool $200,000 or a bullet in the skull. But the path to reward or ruin is never as straight as it seems. As the three complicated men travel through the endless Texas landscape, across the border and back, their hidden motivations are laid bare alongside nightmarish encounters that defy explanation. One thing is certain, even if Mario makes it out alive, he'll return a different man. The Devil Takes You Home is a panoramic odyssey for fans of S.A. Cosby's Southern Noir Blacktop Wasteland by way of the boundary-defying storytelling of Stephen Graham Jones and Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Love all those authors, but I think that the thing that really, really interested me about this is that it felt like a longer idea, or a longer, more thought out, fleshed out idea of some of what we were also getting from Zero Saints. Completely two different characters, two different men entirely, but in this hitman, the violence, the speculative fiction, the spiritual, the all of that combining together in this journey of one's like identity and all of that. That's what I feel like I'm gonna also get out of here, but just more fleshed out and a longer story. So I am excited to see where it goes. And read this probably come September. So we'll see. Next one, Craft Stories I Wrote for the Devil by Ananda Lima. This is a collection of short stories. I've had my eyes on this for quite some time. It sounds really kind of interesting and weird and like a mixture of horror, but more weird girl lit than horror in my opinion. But I am excited to get into this finally. And again, it was a short collection of stories. So as we see, that's kind of where I think that a lot of my reading is gonna be like, I think it's just the satisfaction as well, reading a shorter story, well, especially if it's written really, really well. At a Halloween party in 1989, a writer slept with the devil. She sees him again and again throughout her life, and she writes stories for him about things that are both impossible and true. Lima lures readers into surreal pockets of the United States and Brazil, where they'll find bite-sized Americans and vending machines and the ghosts of people who are not dead. Once there, she speaks to modern Brazilian American immigrant experiences of ambition, fear, longing, and belonging, and reveals the porousness of storytelling and of the places we call home. Strange, intimate, haunted, and hungry, Craft Stories I Wrote for the Devil is an intoxicating surreal fiction debut. So, yeah, I'm excited to finally get a hold of reading this. This has been on my TBR probably for the last 2 or 3 years. So it's going to be satisfying to finally get into this. And looking at the back, I'm seeing a lot of names I recognize and love, which is always nice to kind of hear that they're like, no, you need to read this book, which is fantastic. So, and finally, Rekt by Gonzalez. I've seen this pop up here and there when people are talking about something that's more science fiction horror, and highly recommended by others. And I saw it and I was like, okay, I'm finally gonna pick this one up. I'm ready to be kind of weirded out. I love this. Feels like a really weird type of book, so I'm really looking forward to like what that finally is from reading it. A disturbing examination of toxic masculinity in the darkest pits of the internet, Alex Gonzalez's Rekt traces a young man's algorithmic descent into depravity and a future that's nearly here. Be Me, 26, about to end it all, feels good, man. Once that may not make sense if you're not reading it. It's supposed to be kind of like his bio. Once Sammy Dominguez thought he knew how the world worked. The ugly things in his head, his uncle's pathetic death, his parents' mistrust, the twisted horrors he writes for the internet, didn't matter because he and his girl, Ellery, were on track for the good life in this messed up world. Then a car accident changed everything. Spiraling with grief and guilt, Sammy scrambles for distraction. He finds it in shock value videos of gore and violence that terrified him as a child. When someone messages him a dark web link to footage of Ellery dying, he watches first the car crash that killed her, then hundreds of other deaths, even for people still alive. Accidents, diseases, suicides, murders. The host site, Chinsky? Chinsky is sadistic, vicious, impossible. It even seems to read his mind, manipulate his searches. But is Chinsky even real? And who is Harspo, the web handle who led him into this virtual nightmare? As Sammy watches compulsively, the darkness in his mind blooms, driving him down a twisted path to find the roots of Chinsky, even if he must become a nightmare himself. Not for the faint of heart, Rekt combines the cautionary warnings of Black Mirror with the Saudi rawness of Chuck Palahniuk in its unrelenting examination of the emotional holes we fill with content. We're there, people. I think that this is going to be a hard read, of course, because of a lot of the rawness of it, and the disgust of it, because it really is where we are right now with the internet, as we know, with many different outlets for unchecked misogyny, unchecked violence, unchecked just numbness by some people out there right now. And I think that it'll be hard of a read. I think that I may even end up putting this in like a little bit of the era of how hard it was for me to read American Psycho. But I think that that again is something, it's a need to read though. And even with American Psycho being a hard read, it was a need to read, especially where we are right now. And especially where we are right now with the internet and AI and all of that, I definitely feel like this is a necessity. Shout out to Nina from The Wandering Reader on Instagram for recommending this so much, and I highly recommend you to check her out because I would read anything she recommends, period, point blank. Okay, these next books are books that I got, thankfully, for free through my job. I'm very excited to share these with you because I've been wanting to read these, and then I'll get into my thrift, and then I think we will be close to done. I know this is long, but it's a book haul. Y'all knew what you were getting into when I started this off. Okay, let's get into it. Some of these I've not heard of before, and some of them I've heard a lot of and decided to finally pick up. I try when I do the free book thing at work of the program to pick up things that I'm drawn to and sound great, but I may not find them at a store readily available. Just because, of course, I just want access to things that I would normally not find just walking around Barnes& Noble. As we saw, there were tons of things that I was just walking around and I was like, oh, okay, I love this. I'm going to pick it up. But it is great to finally pick up some things that I've been meaning to read. And then it's great to kind of pick up some things that are I've not seen anybody talk about, or I love the cover. One of those things is You're Safe Here by Leslie Steffens. I've not heard anybody really talk about this one. I'm not certain on when it released. 2024. I don't remember anybody talking about it. And that's usually either it fell under the radar or it just wasn't that good. And so people didn't talk about it. I never know, but I was drawn to it. And I was really drawn to the conversations of tech and motherhood. Y'all already know those are some of my favorite tropes. So let's get into what this is about. It's 2060 on the decimated coast of California, but one company offers the perfect escape. Or is it? Maggie Edsall is still recovering from a traumatic incident that took place years ago and a fresh heartbreak when she receives a coveted spot on the first ever well pod retreat. The long-awaited pinnacle of wellness technology, the fleet of floating personal paradises scattered throughout the Pacific Ocean, is perfectly attuned to the needs of each traveler. For newly pregnant Maggie, the 6-week program is the ideal chance to get away, especially since the baby isn't her partner's. Emmett Neal, yeah, that's how I read that. Emmett Neal, the enigmatic founder of WellCorp, knows she struck gold again with the Well Pods. Hers is the type of success that comes once in a generation and appears effortless because she keeps the sacrifices she's made along the way behind a carefully crafted facade. Now, with everything riding on this launch, she'll stop at nothing to maintain control of the ultimate outcome of her company and her vision. Noah Behar isn't a perfect girlfriend. She's too distracted to focus on her programming work to give Maggie the attention she deserves. But when she discovers something rotten beneath WellPod's shiny exterior, a history of faulty tech and dangerous cover-ups, she knows one thing. She'll do whatever it takes to keep Maggie safe. The problem? The malfunctioning WellPods are still at sea, and there's a storm coming. I'm excited to read this because I feel like there have been so many situations as of late where rich people or wellness folks, or influencers or whatever, they've been at the mercy of these companies who are trying to be the first in tech. And I think right now we're in a lot of conversations about what that is and what cost is being the first, but not regulating, not doing, just in an arms race. To just be the first to do something and not testing what the ramifications can be of it, not caring what the ramifications of it could be. We're only 2 years or 3 years away from when they were all rich people, but it was still horrible to kind of witness and see these people get into this pod to go see the Titanic and then drown because, people who wanted their money were just like, we don't need to test it. We don't need to make sure that it's going to have people in it at all. And while, context is important in regards to people's reaction to it, it still was horrible on all ends to witness. And I think that this feels a lot similar to that conversation, but in the spectrum of the wellness conversation. I think that in the end, I may end up living in the same space as like a natural beauty or something. I don't know, but I am excited to get into this. And again, I hadn't heard a lot of people talk about this one. And the cover was designed by one of my coworkers. I love saying that. I never will get over saying that. Another one, I was attracted to the cover. I'm gonna be honest. And then I realized, oh, I should probably be reading this author, and that's Jamaica Kincaid. This is Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. And it's a simple but beautiful cover. So, again, it was Picador. We know that I love Picador, so There you go. Since her first prize-winning collection of stories, At the Bottom of the River, Jamaica Kincaid's work has been met with nothing short of amazement. The New York Times hailed her prophetic power, and the Los Angeles Times Book Review said, no one else seems to be writing quite this way. With Annie John, the story of a young girl coming of age in Antigua, Kincaid tore open the theme that lies at the heart of her fierce, incantory novels, the ambivalent and essential bonds created by a mother's love. In this book, written in Kincaid's lucid, elemental style, Annie John's ambivalence is universally familiar and wretchedly real. Human condition, parental trauma, sign me up. Also, I think that I was really interested in reading about a story happening in Antigua because I've actually never read much about anything happening in Antigua whatsoever, and I think again it's a learning opportunity. I've found reading has really opened up the world so much to me, and I'm very thankful for that. But there's so much that I still need to explore, and so I'm excited to get into this. It's a shorty, but I feel like it's going to be a good one. I don't even think that I honestly need to read what this one is about. Tender is the Flesh, by Agustina Bazterrica. Y'all, I haven't read it. I hadn't read it before. I definitely got into some of her other stuff before I read this. It's not even because people have told me how crazy it is. I actually want to read it because of that. It's just really because there were just other books out there, and I felt like so many people were talking about this one that I already knew what was happening. So I guess it kind of took away that opportunity for a shock or to have like an emotional reaction to this. But people have told me repeatedly, "No, you're still gonna have an emotional reaction to this." I already knew what the whole thing was kind of talking about, and you're not prepared for the writing. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna pick it up. I decided, why not? Um, if you don't know, I feel like I still need to read what it's about. Continuity and all of that. The working at the local processing plant, Marcos is in the business of slaughtering humans, though no one calls him that anymore. His wife has left him, his father is sinking in dementia, and Marcos tries not to think too hard about how he makes a living. After all, it happened so quickly. First, it was reported that an infectious virus has made all animal meat poisonous to humans. Then governments initiated the transition. Now eating human meat, special meat, is legal. Marcos tries to stick to numbers, consignments, processing. Then one day he's given a gift, a live specimen of the finest quality. Though he's aware that any form of personal contact is forbidden on pain of death, little by little he starts to treat her like a human being. And soon he becomes tortured by what has been lost and what might still be saved. Um, people have told me it's very hard to read. It's such a short novel, but a lot of people have said it's very, very hard to read. But I've not heard anybody say it's not worth the read at all. That it's moving, it's a lot, but it's necessary. So I am excited to finally read this. Probably come September. I can already see that probably happening. Um, but we will see what the final feel may be on this. I did read The Unworthy, and I wanted it to do more than what it ended up doing. I think it set a really amazing scene, but I don't think it got absolutely there for me, and I think that was what a lot of people said about it. I'm positive that that's not gonna be necessarily the case with this one, but who knows? I've read popular books before and thought, "Maybe I'm not smart enough for it." I don't get it, so we will see. Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. Okay, for November, I finally read this was my last chance on Stephen Graham Jones this last November, and that was reading The Buffalo Hunter Hunter. I've read other Stephen Graham Jones books, and I've just not been impressed. I think that it has to do with his teenage characters. I'm just not into reading about his teenage characters whatsoever. I feel like they read really flat. And Buffalo Hunter Hunter was not that whatsoever. It did not read flat whatsoever. I absolutely loved it. That was if I didn't love that, I was like, okay, it's like a Paul Tremblay thing where I was just like, I just don't think this author's writing's for me. So luckily, I've reinstated the possibility of me reading other of his books. I know a lot of y'all are probably like, great, now read A Few Good Indians or something along those lines, or My Heart is a Chainsaw series and stuff. I may wait on reading those just because again, the teenage perspective, I'm not a fan of his teenage characters, but I did read the synopsis on this. Again, it was a shorty, and I was really impressed. It has to do with grief and parental trauma and all of that, and so interested in reading this and picking it up, and was excited to kind of get into it, mapping the interior. Times have been times have been tough for 12-year-old Junior, his mom especially for his younger brother Dino. When his dad makes a surprise visit late one night, Junior is desperate to make him part of their family again. The only problem is Dad drowned 8 years ago, and bringing back the dead always comes at a cost. I think that there's a possibility that this won't be the best, or it'll blow me away. I think that that's what I'm learning about Stephen Graham Jones. There is no in between really with his writing for me personally. So we will see. I don't think that I'll be too hurt considering it was free and considering how short it was if it doesn't end up blowing me away though. Another classic that I've been meaning to pick up for the longest and finally read from this author, Naylor Hopkinson, and this is Blackheart Man. I have been meaning to read her work for who knows how long. She is just speculative fiction all the way in black. It's amazing. And I just haven't been able to get to her work yet. That's always the problem with how fast I can read and how many books are out there to read. And this sounded amazing, but I will say that I am interested to see if I end up liking it because it seems more fantasy leaning than horror. But I am excited to kind of get to start learning more about her work and reading and getting to know better about it. Vikosi, in training as well as a Chantwell, a historian and musician, hopes to sail off to examine the rare Alamat Book of Light and thus secure. Y'all, I'm getting through so many of these books. Secure a spot for himself on Chin Chin's, yep, I said that right, colloquium of fellows. However, unexpected events prevent that from happening. 15 Yisman, Yemison, I see this is where I listen to audiobook helps because pronunciation is important. Yemison galleons arrive in the harbor to force a trade agreement on Chinchin. Vikosi tries to help, hoping to prove himself with a bold move, but is quickly in way over his head. Bad turns to worst when malign voices start stirring. Pickens, children, are disappearing in an ancient invading army, long frozen into piche, tar, statues by island wenches, is stirring to life, led by the fearsome demon known as the Blackheart Man. Vikosi has problems in his polyamorous personal life too. How much trouble can a poor student take or cause all by himself as the line between myth and history blends in this delightfully sly tale by one of science fiction and fantasy's greatest novelists? Yeah, again, I know that this is it's science fiction and fantasy, and it does seem that this one leans far more fantasy than science fiction, but I do feel like this is something I may like. I although that the genre is a little shaky. I am excited to kind of see where it kind of goes from there. And I've been meaning to read Noah Hopkinson's work for the longest, and I felt like a fraud even having any sort of Black readathon and having not read her work. The Slip by Lucas Schafer. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't attracted to the cover first. Yep. The cover took me away, and then I read what it was about, and I was like, oh, we got to read this. We got to definitely read this. Austin, Texas. It's the summer of 1998, and there's a new face on the scene at Terry Tucker's boxing gym. 16-year-old Nathaniel Rothstein has never felt comfortable in his own skin, but under the tutelage of I love that word, of a swaggering Haitian-born ex-fighter named David Dallas, he begins to come into his own. Even the boy's slightly stoned uncle, Bob Alexander, who is supposed to be watching him for the summer, notices the change. Nathaniel is happier, more confident, tanner even. Then one night he vanishes, leaving little trace behind. Across the city, Charles Rekt, now going simply by X, has been undergoing a teenage transformation of his own, trolling the phone sex hotline that his mother works, seeking an outlet for everything that feels wrong about his body, looking for intimacy and acceptance in a culture that denies him both. As a surprising and unlikely romance blooms, X feels for a moment like he might have found the safety he's been searching for, but it's never that simple. More than a decade later, Nathaniel's uncle Bob receives a shocking tip, propelling him to open his own investigation into his nephew's disappearance. The resulting search involves gym-goers past and present, including a down on his left twin and his opportunistic brother, a rookie cop determined to prove herself, and Alexis Cepeda, a promising lightweight who crossed the U.S.-Mexico border when he was only 14, carrying with him a license bearing the wrong name and face. Bobbing and weaving across the ever-shifting canvas of a changing country, The Slip is an audacious, daring look at sex and race in America that builds to an unforgettable collision in the center of the ring. I think that this is exciting. Obviously, it's about its queerness, but in the context of also boxing and masculinity and everything. And I'm excited to see where that goes because that does sound, of course, very interesting to me personally. I don't think that not heard anybody talk about this book, but I am drawn by the cover, of course, and reading the synopsis about it. I feel like it's gonna be like you know what I love? Like something that feels like a gay creed. Something in that vein would be great. But of course, like far more different dimensions and not just, oh, Rocky was training me because, he basically killed my father type of thing. But but something that feels reminiscent of something along those lines. It is a long one for who I am personally and what I usually read, but you've seen that I have a lot of novellas and short stories that I've got and that I'm working through this year. I'm hoping that, having some longer ones throughout the year, between all of that won't feel so long and arduous. I also hope that like this is as good of a enthralling story as I think that it will be. It may not feel that long. It may not feel like it's 450 pages long. Another and one of the last books that I got from the free book program at my job, Scream With Me, Horror Films and the Rise of American Feminism by Eleanor Johnson. Of course, I'm excited to read this. Of course, it's the examination of horror through the eyes of feminism. But also, this on my shelves, I'm really hoping when I reorganize my bookshelves, I'll have some space so that I can start having some front facing covers again. Because I have such beautiful books. I want y'all to be able to see them. So, yeah, I'm excited to get into this, of course, because it is looking at horror through a social lens. There are a lot of books that came out in the last year that are looking at horror through a social lens. This is, of course, Scream With Me, but there's another one that had, like the ghost face, but it's made with a bunch of popcorn pieces. I mean, the cover is really like recognizable and everything. I want to pick that one up at some time too and read as well. Last year, reading the memoirs and nonfiction that I read was really great, and I want to sneak in some nonfiction here and there on topics that I'm really excited about. Don't get too excited. I'm not going to read tons of nonfiction, but some here and there on like some really interesting topics. In May 2022, Dr. Eleanor Johnson watched alongside her students as the Supreme Court overturned decades of judicial precedent and reversed Roe versus Wade. At the time, her class was in the middle of studying the 1968 horror classic Rosemary's Baby, which led Johnson to an epiphany. Horror cinema engages directly with the combustible politics of women's rights and the despotic atmosphere in America. In 10 transcend Yes, Trenchant. Essays. Scream With Me reveals with intellect and empathy how classics like Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, and The Shining expose and critique issues of reproductive control, domestic violence, and patriarchal oppression. These films, beloved by horror fans, show with blood and terror the sinister nature of gender roles, the isolation of domesticity, and the ever-present threat lurking in the shadows behind our own thresholds. Here, Johnson weaves those iconic films into the fabric of American feminism, revealing that true horror lies not in rare situations and the supernatural, but in familiar confines of the home. While celebrating seminal horror films, Johnson also encourages us to wrestle intimately with the surface scares to understand the deeper messages at play. Scream With Me is an unflinching and timely recognition of the power of the genre to shape and reflect cultural dialogues about gender and autonomy. Basically, it's what I do every single day when I watch any sort of horror film in a book. Love it. Definitely will be reading during March. I think that y'all could have figured that out already. But I am looking forward to this quite a bit. Finally, I know this one has been such a long one, but thanks for sticking it out, y'all. I am getting into my thrift scores that I found recently. I have found some amazing thrift stores in great condition. It's just further proof that you can find really great books at the thrift store. Also, it's further proof that when you unhaul books that you just don't like, take them to the thrift store, donate those books because there's somebody out there who probably has been meaning to read that book and they'll may like it. And then they can have it for the cheap price of $3 instead of having to pay full price for it. It's amazing. Don't throw those books away. Let's get into it. I also have one arc. It's not really an arc. It was just sent to me as an influence edition, but I think it was printed as an arc. It's already out, so I included it in this because it's just one. First and foremost, Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu. I've had a lot of people say that this is a really great book, and it has been made into a show. I'm excited to read it because I have heard that it is weird because it's written as a film and like a script. And it's, of course, got the signature script dialogue and type of print throughout. So I am excited to get into this one. And I want to see, like, it sounds really weird. I want to watch the show. I'm afraid that doing what I usually do, which is read and then watch the show, may make it strange. I don't know. The show's on Hulu. Who knows what's happening with Hulu anymore as well? Maybe I should just watch it, get it out of the way, and then read the book. I'm afraid that that'll inform the book. It's like chicken before the egg type of stuff when it comes with shows and movies and books and where they're coming from and everything. But Willis Wu doesn't perceive himself as the protagonist in his own life. He merely is a generic Asian. He's merely a generic Asian man. Sometimes he gets to be background oriental, making a weird face, or even disgraced son, but always he is relegated to a prop. Yet every day he leaves his tiny room in a Chinatown SRO and enters the Golden Palace restaurant, where Black and White, a procedural cop show, is in perpetual production. He's a bit player here too, but he dreams of being Kung Fu Guy, the most respected role that anyone who looks like him can attain. Or is it? After stumbling into the spotlight, Willis finds himself launched into a world wider than he's ever known, discovering not only the secret history of Chinatown, but also the buried legacy of his own family. Inventive and deeply personal, exploring themes of pop culture, assimilation, and immigration, Interior Chinatown is Charles Wu Yu's most loving, daring, and masterful novel yet. Again, I'm very excited. It sounds like it's something fun and like sarcastically hilarious. Like I feel like it's gonna be something that I laugh quite a bit at because it seems like my type of humor, like very sarcastic, like, you know, humor, straight in your face humor type of thing. But definitely addressing some out there issues, of course. Probably it'll probably be May. I'm like trying to plan out already what I'm reading because it'll make it that much easier for me to feel like I'm tackling the behemoth of a physical TBR that I have. Jose Saramago, Mago? Yeah, Jose Saramago, Death with Interruptions. I've known of his work for blindness, and I want to read that at some point, but this is what showed up at the thrift store for me, and I thought this sounds really interesting and very apocalyptic, and all of the things that I love out of a book, and very weird highbrow lit type of thing that I love out of translated novels, to be honest. Although I don't think this is translated. I think it's translated. I actually am positive it's translated. Who knows? I don't know, but I'm excited to read this one. On the first day of the new year, no one dies. This, of course, causes consternation among politicians, religious leaders, morticians, and doctors. Among the general public, however, there is initially celebration. Flags are hung out on balconies, people dance in the streets. They have achieved the great goal of humanity, eternal life. Then reality hits home. Families are left to care for the permanently dying. Life insurance policies become meaningless, and funeral parlors are reduced to arranging burials for pet dogs, cats, hamsters, and parrots. Death sits in her chilly apartment, where she lives alone with scythe and filing cabinets, and contemplates her experiment. What if no one ever died again? What if she, dead with a small d, became human and fell in love? Human condition, y'all. Y'all know I love it. And the metaphors, all of that. There's a part of me that wants to read this in January, be a part of my TBR. I think a lot of me wants to just do a lot of kind of metaphorical human condition, science fiction type of stuff in January. That's what I've been leaning to as of late. And I feel like, this is a new year book type of thing. And so I feel like this would be perfect to start the year off with, but we'll see. We'll see if this ends up being a part of that. Next, I'm kind of upset because I have seen the repackaging of this book recently, and I'm a big fan of them finally repackaging her books. Sula by Toni Morrison. I found this at the thrift store. Of course, I picked it up because a lot of people have told me while I've tried Toni Morrison's work, I will keep on trying Toni Morrison's work because I'm gotta find something. A lot of people told me Sula is the one for me. That hearing me talk about books, hearing what I'm usually into, me as a person, they're like, you have to read Sula. I feel like that's the one for you. So we're going to try Sula. If I end up really loving this book, I may get the repackaging and redonate this one because I I've talked so many times when I talk about how Black classic novels just don't get the treatment they should get. Toni Morrison's packaging has always been at the top of that list. I've just never been happy with this. It doesn't feel human. There's not enough human and brightness and all of that to this, and it makes a lot of her older packaging be so, like I've picked up like the old one of Beloved and stuff. I have all of that because that packaging really fits it better, I feel like, in my opinion. And for a long time, this is what we've been dealing with, just these jewel tones with this cursive. I don't know. I've never been a fan of it. So seeing those bright repackaging, I'll probably have it up here on the screen. It makes me very, very happy because I feel like it'll make people want to pick up those books more who have never heard of Toni Morrison or who have heard of Toni Morrison and are like, I do love how this cover looks. Let me pick it up. I love it. Keep doing that. I love that, James Baldwin's work has gotten repackaged with a lot of bright paintings, and I have one of those as well. I just keep that up. I know that it's hit or miss. I know some people aren't a fan of it, but me personally, I feel like a lot of secondary, like stock images and darkness and stuff like that, has been used on Black literature and Black books, and especially Black classics, and it has caused them to kind of recede and not jump out at people who are buying, people are buying bright books, they want art and stuff on their books. So I'm very excited about it. But I did pick this up before I knew that was out. Two girls who grow up to become women, two friends who become something worse than enemies. In this brilliantly imagined novel, Nobel Prize laureate Toni Morrison tells the story of Nell Wright and Sula Peace, who meet as children in the small town of Medallion, Ohio. Their devotion is fierce enough to withstand bullies and the burden of a dreadful secret. It endures even after Nell has grown up to be a pillar of the Black community and Sula has become a pariah. But their friendship ends in an unforgivable betrayal, or does it end? Terrifying, comic, ribald, and tragic, Sula is a work that overflows with life. So it sounds like something I should love. It's not necessarily the topic. It's the writing that always kind of gets me because it's purple prose. So I am excited to get into it and see if this is finally the Toni Morrison book for me. Next, Latvonia by Otessa Mashevek. I think I've heard so many people read her work. Here's the thing. I've tried to read Eileen, wasn't into it. I tried to read something else of hers, wasn't into it. I've heard a lot of people say this is great in a very weird way, and I wasn't going to pay for it because I've really missed with a lot of her work. And so I am excited that I found it thrifting. I'm wondering, why did I find it thrifting? Maybe it wasn't for somebody else, but I have heard a lot of great stuff. But I also heard a lot of great stuff about Eileen, and it just wasn't for me. So hopefully this moves me. I jumped when I saw this. I just couldn't believe that it was actually donated. So in a village in a medieval fiefdom buffeted by natural disasters, a motherless shepherd boy finds himself the unlikely pivot of a power struggle that puts all manner of faith to a savage test in a spellbinding novel that represents Otessa Moshfegh's most exciting leap yet. Little Marique, the abused and delusional son of the village shepherd, never knew his mother. His father told him she died in childbirth. One of the life's few consolations for Merrick is his enduring bond with the blind village midwife, Ina, who suckled him when he was a baby, as she did for many of the village children. Ina's gifts extend beyond childcare. She possesses a unique ability to communicate with the natural world. Her gift often brings her the transmission of sacred knowledge on levels far beyond those available to other villagers, however religious they might be. For some people, Ina's home in the woods outside the village is a place to fear and to avoid a godless place. Among their number is Father Barnabas, the town priest and lackey for the depraved lord and governor, Wilhelm, whose hilltop manor contains a secret embarrassment of riches. The people's desperate need to believe that there are powers that be who have their best interests at heart is to put to a cruel test by Willem and the priest, especially in this year of recorded drought and famine. But when fate brings Merrick into violent proximity to the Lord's family, new and occult forces upset the old order. 5 years in, the veil between blindness and sight, life and death, the natural world and the spirit world will prove to be very thin indeed. Do I think that it's going to be very literary and all of that? Absolutely, just based off of that synopsis alone. However, I do think that it may be very eye-opening to what's even happening in our world right now, and will maybe through that lens be something that I can move through. Here's the thing, I'm glad that I thrifted it, because if I end up loving it, then great, I got it. If I don't, I won't feel that bad about getting rid of it. So I think one thing that's definitely been always a thing with Tessa Moshfegh's work for me is the fact that Moshfegh, I think it's Moshfegh. I don't know. I gotta listen to it, but I think that it's wordy, and purple prose for me always it's either hit or miss, and that's a possibility reading that synopsis. But I do think listening to what the actual heart of the plot is, it's very relevant. And it's a possibility that reading that and knowing it through that lens, it will be entertaining for me. I don't know. It may be a dark horse. My final thrifted find was one that I've been looking for quite a bit, and I'll be reading during February. That's Black Candle Woman by Diane Marie Brown. Now, here's the thing. I'll be reading it during February, but it's mainly because it'll be talking about witches, not because it's talking necessarily about horror. But I am excited to still pick this up and get into it. I've been wanting to for quite a while, and whenever I tell people that I love The Women Could Fly, people automatically go, oh, you should pick up this book. And I've been meaning to. I just haven't gotten to it. It is not horror, though. I want to make sure people know it's definitely not horror, but it is about witches. Generations of Montrose women, Augusta, Victoria, Willow, have lived together in their quaint two-story bungalow in California for years. They keep to themselves, never venture far from home, and their collection of tinctures and spells is an unspoken bond between them. But when 17-year-old Nikki Montrose brings home a boy for the first time, their quiet lives are thrown into disarray. For the other women have been withholding a secret from Nikki that will end her relationship before it's even begun. The decades-old family curse that any person they fall in love with dies. Their surprise guest forces each woman to reckon with her own past choices and mistakes. And as new truths about the curse emerge, the family is set on a collision course dating back to a voodoo shop in 1950s New Orleans, French Quarter, where a hidden story and a mysterious book may just hold the answers they seek in life and in love. It's not horror. If anything, it's definitely a Black woman take on practical magic. But it does have to do with voodoo and witches and all of that. And I think that it's also a possibility that I may push it to even March and read it during that time as well. Looking at what I have horror-wise, that's a huge possibility. But I'm very excited to finally get into this year. The final book to share with y'all, I know we are finally here. I am going to hate myself while editing all of this, and I can't believe anybody has made it this far, is Happy Bad by Delaney Nolan. I literally just got this the other day. It is it's an influencer copy. It says it's an art copy, but it's definitely not. It's already out. It came out in October. But yes, thank you again to Astor House for saying this to me. Astor House has some amazing covers as well as some amazing novels. Some of my favorites are from Astor House, so make sure you go and check them out. Beatrice works at Twin Bridge, a chronically underfunded residential treatment center in the near future East Texas, teeming with enraged teenage girls on either too many or not enough drugs. On a normal day, it's difficult for Beatrice and the other staff, Arda, Carmen, and Linda, keep their cool and dust blown askew. But when a heat wave triggers a massive sustained blackout, Beatrice and the other staff and residents must evacuate. Facing police brutality, sweltering heat, panic evacuees, the girls mounting withdrawal, and the consequences of their own lives, they search for a route out of the blackout zone. A catastrophe novel by turns tender. A catastrophe novel by turns. That sounded weird. Turns tender and hilarious, fueled by a low simmering political rage. Happy Bad is a rocket arrived on Earth. Again, I am very thankful for this because, of course, it has to do with women. It has to do with, of course, conversations of mental health, the mental health industry that it is, and all of that. And so I am looking forward to finally reading this. I'd seen it on their list of things that had come out, and it was definitely one that I was looking forward to. It will probably be read in March. I don't know. I've got to look through all of these, but I am very, very thankful to have received this one. As you can hear, it basically ticks all the boxes for me. That is it for my entire book haul. I know, you see how many that was? You see how long this video is? That's why I'm on a book ban. Guys, I have to get through these books. This is just the books that I've bought recently. I think that in order to deal with my stress, I was buying books and it was getting ridiculous. And although some of these were actually free, it still is like, but at what cost? Because I still have tons of other books. So as I'm doing this book reorg, I'm hoping that I'm also making some space and planning out my TBR for at least the next 4 to 5 months or so. I think that I have space for like having books and spaces for that. And going through that makes me very excited because I am excited to read all of those books. They all sound great. I do need to go through my bookshelf and really have a heart-to-heart with what I'm going to read, and what just needs to be unhauled. Like, what am I not going to read? So look forward to that bookshelf reorg with me and unhaul with me. I love doing those at the top of the year because it just feels like a great clean out. It makes room for me to read other books. Right now I have no space to put any new books that I'm going to be reading. So I'm very much looking forward to that and finally placing these somewhere that doesn't feel so overwhelming whatsoever. But thank you so much. I hope that you found some new books to add to your ever-growing TBRs and book lists. We will see. I need to stick to this book buying ban for sure. I know editing me hates me already, but thank you so much if you've stuck around for the end of this video, and please comment down below if you have. Thanks again for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!